Randy Robinson here at Life Today TV with my guest Tony Perkins, who is the president of the Family Research Council. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Randy, great to be with you.
Give people that may not be familiar with your organization kind of a quick overview of exactly what you do.
Well, in very short terms, what the Family Research Council does, it's been doing for almost 30 years in Washington, D.C. We work to shape public policy as it pertains to families from a Christian perspective. That's essentially what we do.
What does that translate into? What kind of issues do you deal with?
We work on tax issues, for those who itemize and have the child tax credit. That was an idea that originated with the Family Research Council. So that tax deduction that helps parents cover the cost of raising their kids, well, that's something the Family Research Council
As a father of four, thank you.
Yes, well, I have 5, so I understand. It comes in handy. We also work on issues of life. We work on issues trying to promote a culture of life. That's dealing with issues of abortion, deals with issues of adoption, promoting adoption as alternatives, promoting the issue of good ethical science, adult stem cell research, as opposed to embryonic stem cell research. A lot of people don't know the difference between that because the media lumps it all together. Embryonic stem cell research requires the destruction of a human embryo. And not a single person, most people don't realize this, not a single person has been successfully treated with embryonic stem cells. However, adult stem cells, over 80 different medical conditions, literally thousands of people have been successfully treated with adult stem cells. So we're promoting that. We have one of the leading scientists on our staff. We deal with issues about marriage and family, promoting the biblical and traditional marriage of a man and a woman, monogamous for life, and we have all the social science that backs it up that says if we want our children to succeed, that's what we should strive for as a society, to see that child grow up with a mom and a dad who are married and committed to each other.
On that subject, what's wrong with, hey, if a man and another man decide they love each other and want to be committed to each other for life, what's wrong with allowing that just to be, let them have their marriage?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, Randy. Every time I speak on that issue, I get that question,
sure.
Because for the most part we're all pretty tolerant people. Hey, live and let live, let folks do what they want to do. It's not that simple. First off, it defies nature, and the whole reason for marriage is, I know we don't like to hear this today, but it's procreation. It is the whole reason that men and women get together in the biological design is so they can give life to the next generation. Everything about marriage is about giving to the next generation.
But not all heterosexuals necessarily have children.
No, that's true. But that union has the capacity. Now, not every individual has that capacity, but we don't make public policy based upon individual circumstances. Now, I know that there are some gay couples, lesbian couples that make good parents. Now, there's exceptions to that. There are some that aren't good parents. But by and large, we know from a large body of social science that children do best and develop to their fullest potential when they're raised by a biological mom and a dad who are married together. Why would we embrace policy that would deprive the child from the beginning of the optimum situation? And so that's one reason. Policy should be pushing us toward, doesn't mean we always reach it, but we should be pushing toward that which is best for society. So policy is not made based upon individuals, it's based on mankind. It's what's best for society as a whole. There's also consequences. We're now beginning to see the consequences of this idea that we can coexist with this notion of same-sex marriage and the whole kind of a homosexual agenda as it's been described. It's taught in our schools.
Yeah.
We've seen this in Massachusetts.
Whether you want it or not.
Whether you want it or not. I sat down with a dad of a kindergartner who, after Massachusetts back in 2004 legalized same-sex marriage through the courts, that kindergartner was taught that homosexual marriage was the same as heterosexual. The father went to school and said, look, I don't care what you teach, but I don't want my child taught that. He was a Christian dad. He said, all I want you to do is to call me when you're going to teach that so I can come take my child out of school. You know what they told him? You can't do that. You have no right to take your child out of the class. The father said, I'm not going to leave until you give me that assurance. They arrested him, and he spent the night in jail.
You're kidding me.
No, he went to jail because he was trying to protect his 5-year-old son from being taught something that contradicted their beliefs as Christians. Those two cannot coexist together.
The face of the gay marriage movement doesn't tell you that that's what they're after.
No. And look, this is not about whether they're bad people. We all are sinners. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And so we love the homosexuals, but we don't express that love by allowing them to change our laws and continue down a pathway that is scientifically, we know this from the science, is destructive. I mean, we know it from the research. It's destructive individually. It's destructive to the society. I think it's the antithesis of love to, if we know that somebody is going to engage in behavior that is destructive, and for us not to say anything, to me that's hate. That's what hate is. Hate is not standing up and saying, you know what, God loves you, but He doesn't approve of your lifestyle. He doesn't approve of whether it be heterosexual adultery or whether it be fornication or whatever it is that taints this temple, that taints that relationship with God.
Sure. There's another issue. I want to jump tracks a little bit.
Sure.
That, you mentioned you were working on before the interview, and that's sex trafficking, which here at Life, we're huge because we work in Cambodia and Thailand and all these foreign places to rescue these girls. But you kind of startled me because you're not working overseas.
No, we're working right here in the United States. You know, I'm a father of 5, 3 daughters. And I was kind of, I'll tell you how I stumbled into this issue, was actually working to defund Planned Parenthood. And Lila Rose, who was a friend of mine, a young 19-year-old girl who actually went in undercover to these Planned Parenthood clinics, got on tape. These clinic workers and managers covering for sex trafficking. And
how?
Well, for number one, not reporting, telling the pimps that they would not report, and to help facilitate them by actually counseling. These videos are online. You can actually Google this and watch it on YouTube. One clinic manager in New Jersey was actually telling the pimp how they could get the girls back into the business even after an abortion. That they bring them in, they would get the abortion, no questions asked.
Knowing they're underage girls.
Knowing they're underage. We're talking 13-year-old girls.
Unbelievable.
And the pimp even said that to this, a guy posing as a pimp, said this to the manager. We don't want to know that. We don't ask any questions. And they said, how quickly can they get back in the, on the street? She goes, well, at least 2 weeks after the abortion. At least 2 weeks, but they can do some other stuff, from the waist up.
So what do you do to combat this?
Well, this is what happened. As I saw this, I was shocked. So I began to ask questions. Well, how prevalent is this in the United States? Like you, I knew this was going overseas because I've talked and worked with other ministries doing it overseas. I do some ministry work in Honduras, and I was aware of it overseas, but not aware that we have nearly 100,000 young people every year that are sex trafficked in the United States. Now, this could actually be happening while they're living in their own home with their mom and their dad, or generally it's usually with one parent that just doesn't have time to oversee the child. Someone strikes up a relationship with that person, that young girl generally. Knowing they have a need, they begin to win them over, they buy them things, they do things, and before you know it, they've drawn them into the sex trade. Sometimes away from the home and they disappear, and that's part of it. Other times it's right when they're living in their own home with their parent.
So they're setting up, they're basically pimping them out from
Absolutely.
Out from under their parents' noses.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's blackmail, it gets over their head, but this is a real problem for us in the United States, and part of it is a large part of it is being fed by the unrestrained pornography in America that has just skyrocketed and exploded with the internet.
Sure.
And obscenity and illegal obscenity is not being aggressively prosecuted by the federal government.
Yeah. How can someone find out more about what you're doing, maybe get involved?
Well, they can go to our website, frc.org. Now, what we do on this, we partner with ministries that do the hands-on work. You know, we're the policy side. We do the research and the policy, and so we partner with, like for the sex trafficking, for instance, we partner with those who are actually rescuing girls, those who are studying, working with law enforcement, and then we use our relationships on the Hill and our experience in Washington to help pass policies that will provide greater safety to these young people and bring greater awareness. But frc.org, people can find out more about what we do.
Great. Check out the Family Research Council, and be sure to catch Tony Perkins when he is a guest on Life Today. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Randy.